Hey guys, it's Crusher, and on this channel I've talked a lot about how you can increase your HP and survivability, but what if you wanted to do more damage? You don't need a lot of HP if you can kill your opponent quickly. Well, that's where damage modifiers and pen comes in. Today I'm going to be talking about every single way you can increase your damage, and the best ways you can reach the damage cap and the pen cap. And I'll also go over the best ways to do both without spending too many points. So let's get right into it. So to start, let's talk about the different weapon classes. Everybody knows there's light, medium, and heavy weapons. If you want to be doing the most amount of damage, you want to be putting your points into heavy weapon. If you get 100 heavy weapon with the Hive Lord's Hubris, that is the most damage in the game you can do in chime without any modifiers. But if you're out of chime, you can use what's called the Divine Greatsword, which is the Crazy Slots Greatsword. That is the most base damage you can do in the game. Now, nobody really cares about the base damage, let's be honest. We want to know what the actual amount of damage that we can get to is. So let's get started with the damage modifiers. The damage modifiers are Speed Demon at 30% damage, Shade Devour at 20% damage, Manipulator at 20% damage, Charged Return at 20% damage, Flame Within at 20% damage, Matador at 20% damage, Lose Your Mind at 50% damage, Nullifying Clarity at 15% damage, Overflowing Dam at 15% damage, Charismatic Cast at 10% damage, Last Resort at 10% damage, Underdog at 10% damage, Aftercut at 10% damage, Exposed Durability at 10% damage, Spinning Swordsman at 15% damage, Wyvern's Claw at 10% damage, Taunt at 10% damage. Taunt is a special case, we'll get to that soon. Reinforce at 3% damage. And then for pen, we have Armor Piercing at 20% pen, Piercing Will at 20% pen, Cult of Personality maxing at 15% pen, Thresher Claws at 10% pen, Cheap Shot at 10% pen, Bullets at 10% pen, and Million Ton Piercer at 5%. Now you may be wondering, can I stack all of these on top of each other? Well, the answer is actually no. You get your damage multiplier stacked, capped at 175%. Your pen is a different story. It can go higher with certain enchants, and it can go higher with Million Ton Piercer. But if you're on a normal build, you're going to get around 50% pen if you stack up a certain enchant and other modifiers. So let's get into what the most damage we can do in chime is. Per M1, if you get a Hive Lord's Hubris, 3-star pen, you get Speed Demon, Charged Return, Nullifying Clarity, Overflowing Dam, Charismatic Cast, Last Resort, Underdog, Spinning Swordsman, Taunt, Piercing Will, Thresher Claws. Then you get the ring for Strength, Agility, Intelligence, Willpower, and Charisma, and Seer. You can be doing 126.9 damage per M1. That will 6-shot a 600 HP build. That is ridiculous. And in PvE, you'll be doing 1000 plus damage per M1. And let's say the opponent you're going up against has 35% armor, physical armor. You'll be doing 111 damage to them, pretty much nullifying their armor and tearing them to shreds. Now let's say you weren't in chime. You had Crazy Slots, Divine Greatsword, and you had all those same modifiers. You would be doing 137.2 damage. 5 hits and you can kill somebody with 600 HP. With Spine Cutter, you could 4-shot them. And the thing is, those buffs aren't even that hard to stack. But if you want some easy damage buffs, let me give you some options. If you're going the new Twisted Puppets path, it actually has one of the easiest damage modifiers in the entire game. What you're going to want to do is get Charged Return, which is 15 strength and 20 willpower. It gives you a 20% damage boost, and Flame Within. They both proc off of each other, and this will give you a 40% damage boost for only taking a tiny bit of ether. Now on top of that, if you have Nullifying Clarity, and let's say you hit them with one of your mantras and they're on that little ether burn, you M1 them, you will be doing 55% extra damage for basically free. And if you're going on a build that's stacking off damage, and let's say you have Underdog and Piercing Will and Lose Your Mind, that's easily an 80% damage buff that you barely have to work for. This amount of damage is actually not that hard to achieve, and once you start building a build around it, you can see how easy it actually is to reach this amount of damage. They recently actually added a new way for even more damage modifiers. They added Scrap Singer, which is very powerful and gives you a lot of damage boosts and armor shredding capabilities. I personally think that if you really want to make a build that stacks up these damage, you could also go Tonto. Now let me explain. If you use the damage modifiers I explained before that you would use on the Hive Lords, you could actually do 63.6 damage per M1 with an Alloyed Tonto. That is ridiculous. You will be doing 95.8 damage per second. If you know how easy Tonto is to land, it is so much easier than Hive Lords or any of those weapons, and you can do 60 damage per M1. That is almost a bar against a 600 HP enemy. I know it seems counterintuitive to stack damage on top of something that is known for doing the least amount of damage, but it actually makes sense if you think about it. Because you want to deal a lot of damage in a short amount of time. Instead of landing one M1, you could land one crit, which is 3 hits. You'll chunk a bar and a half of their health. And this isn't even talking about a normal build with, let's say, 500 or 550 HP. I'm talking about going against 600 HP. You will be doing such a large amount of damage that you don't even need to stack up that much of your own health. And for 60 less requirement, you could go Champion Sword. At only 40 medium, you will be doing 56 damage per M1. That is 10 M1s to knock somebody who has 500 health. That is ridiculous. Like, you guys need to abuse this. This used to be the meta, and once they put a cap on the damage multipliers, people thought it wasn't that good, but it's still so powerful to go damage modifiers. You should make a build around this. Try to balance your health and the damage modifiers. Try to make the damage modifiers easy to use, like Heretic Sutra with the Underground, the Thresher move. Try using Seer for Pen. Try using Speed Demon, Charge Return Twisted Puppets, all of that, and you'll get such a powerful build. That's all for today's video. If you guys found this helpful, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.